what is it like to be married to me right now? This doesn't get asked enough because it's so easy to notice our husbands' missteps and what they're lacking. But how often are you turning the table around and asking yourself, well, I know what it's like to be their spouse, but what's it like to be my spouse? If you truly want your marriage to change for the better, it will only benefit the both of you if you also start to be introspective. How am I showing up in this marriage? What is it like to be married to me?
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life in marriage? Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. Today, we're going to be diving into something that goes way beyond communication. This one thing is even more important than communication as a whole. This one thing, if you don't have it, trust is lost. Resentment is created. Connection is broken. And it is very difficult to recover from because it cuts so deep when this one thing isn't present in your relationship. Because this one thing permeates all ways that you interact with your partner, in the way that you work together as co-parents, in the way that you live together as roommates, in the way that you are in a relationship, in a friendship. And this is something that we so easily forget to practice and try really hard to maintain, and that is respect. When we don't have that baseline level of respect in the relationship, nothing will grow in the relationship. It will only deteriorate. And this is something that I have fallen into where I don't even realize that I have lost that sense of respect. And this is definitely something that I see across the board with my clients. I've done it myself where I have lost sight of how little respect I have woven into how I interact with my husband. When things aren't going well in marriage, it's very easy to fixate on how we're not getting what we need, whether it's enough support at home with the housework, with raising kids, with the invisible load, all the planning, all the decision making, all the behind the scenes work that goes into parenting, that goes into helping the household run smoothly. And not getting what we need can seep into how we start to treat our partner. We get on our high horse thinking we're not getting what we need. And so subconsciously, we start to lose respect for our partner because we're not living the life that we were hoping. When we said, I do, when we said, let's grow our family, maybe things didn't pan out the way you were thinking. Maybe you thought that you would have a much better and equal partnership with your husband. Maybe you thought he would stay romantic the whole way through. Whatever it is that you're missing could be the reason behind why respect has fallen off. And in this episode, I'm going to share why it's important to be aware of this, not to blame yourself, not to feel guilty, not to feel ashamed, but to grow your awareness and be more mindful of how it's affecting your relationship today. Whether you have been a client of mine or you have been in my world for a while, you have likely heard me ask this question that is so humbling and so challenging to answer. And that is, what is it like to be married to me right now? This is often a question that doesn't get asked enough because it's so easy to notice our husbands' missteps and what they're lacking. But how often are you turning the table around yourself and asking yourself, well, I know what it's like to be their spouse, but what's it like to be my spouse? It's so easy to just point the finger and be like, yeah, they need to change. And once they change, our marriage will change. Yes, when one spouse changes, the marriage changes. But imagine what your marriage could be like if you both change. Imagine if you both take responsibility over how you affect one another. The truth is that you two didn't start off this way, and this is also not what you want it to be. So if you truly want your marriage to change for the better, it will only benefit the both of you if you also start to be introspective about, how am I showing up in this marriage? What is it like to be married to me? And this starts with this conversation around respect. Everyone says communication is the key to a strong marriage. But today we're going to go deeper into that, because what good is communication if it's not rooted in respect, if it's not rooted in connection? I could give you all the tools in the world, but if you have no foundation of respect in how you communicate, it doesn't even matter, because you won't reach for it. You won't reach for those tools. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about why respect is the foundation that you want to build your relationship on, and different ways that you can weave in respect for yourself and for your partner so that it can hold the marriage together, so you have a strong foundation to continue growing together and build off of that. So let's talk about how respect is the very foundation that you want to build your marriage on. Despite what you've heard prior to getting married, love is all you need to have a successful marriage. While love is a great thing to have, and that might have been what drew you two together and what helped you decide that you wanted to get married, love is a feeling that comes and goes throughout your years in marriage. You're going to have trying times. That's not something that you can avoid. But respect needs to stay that constant in your marriage. Respect needs to stay in the room even when you're upset with each other. Respect needs to stay in the room when life is busy. And respect is the very foundation that communication rests on. You can have the best communication tools and still hurt each other if you don't see each other as people worthy of being respected, aka as equals. I thought that I was respectful as a communicator because I gave the courtesy of actually communicating what bothered me. Because I grew up seeing the opposite. I grew up seeing silent treatment as the way to react if you were upset. So instead of yelling, you retreat and hide and give the cold shoulder. So I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about things. I'm going to give them the opportunity to be aware of what happened, and then we can fix it. But little did I know that the way I spoke, my approach, was actually very disrespectful. I was passive aggressive. I blamed a lot. And I didn't have the tools. And learning what respectful communication looked like was a game changer. My conversations with my husband started to become more effective. We started to come together as a team more. And now we're at the point where we can navigate conflict together, come out of it with a solution that we both feel good about, and actually feel like we are growing together in the process, rather than what things used to be like, where we would have an argument, no resolution, sweep it under the rug. I would feel misunderstood, that I didn't get the support that I needed, and move on, only for it to come up again. But now we don't have repetitive arguments. We can move forward. Nothing is swept under the rug because we cleared it out. It has been placed into the trash can and taken out. And this is exactly what I help my clients do. To not fear or feel anxious about having an argument, to not feel like you have to avoid it, to not feel ashamed that the argument ended up in a yelling match again, or to not feel like you're just going to end up crying your eyes out, wondering what else can you do? Why aren't they supporting you? Why aren't they showing that they love you by being more supportive? That is not something that we worry about. When we learn how to weave in respect in how we do things in the marriage and how to navigate conflict with the proper communication tools. Without respect, communication becomes controlling, defensive, dismissive, even abusive sometimes. I used to have pretty toxic communication habits, and I didn't know that. I would have never described myself as someone who is even capable of doing that because I view myself as a kind, loving person. But you know what? When emotion walks in the door and anger and rage takes over, our ability to be respectful demands more energy and effort. And until you recognize your communication style gets compromised when you are highly emotional, whether it's frustration, anger, stress, sadness, loneliness, any of those, until you can admit that you have these tendencies and you can be compromised, nothing will change. But with respect, communication becomes more thoughtful, compassionate, kind, and my favorite word in a relationship, it gets to become safe. When you have safety in your relationship, that's where vulnerability gets to take place. That's where growth gets to take place. That's where you get to learn more about yourself, your partner, and that is where intimacy and connection gets to grow. That's like fertilizer for your relationship. I've been on a plant mom kick lately. I went from having a few plants to almost 30 plants in my home. And so I've been all about using plant metaphors lately. So bear with me. If you're a plant mom, let me know. I love to connect with other people who are also plant lovers. So first off, respecting your partner. What does this look like? This is something that I had a hard time coming to terms with, that there were times that I was not respectful. I grew up learning what respect looked like. Respect is a huge thing in my culture, especially when it comes to parents and people older than you. And so it was so shocking to me when I went on that personal development journey to learn more about what it looked like to have a successful relationship, what it looked like to communicate effectively. And I was like, oh, wow, I am doing a lot of the things that it says not to do. That was hard. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, damn, I do those things, give yourself some compassion, okay? We do what we see, and when we know better, then we can do better. And so this is your moment of learning what better looks like so that you can start to do better, so that you can start being intentional about how you're showing up in your marriage when you're upset, when you're frustrated, and start to co-create a relationship of safety so you can look at conflict as an opportunity to grow together instead of an opportunity to have you both hurt each other in the process. Okay. So here's what respecting your partner looks like in communication. It looks like listening without trying to win or without trying to fix. Think about how you talk with your best friend or the person that you feel so comfortable with that you don't feel like they're judging you. You don't feel like they're trying to change you. You don't feel like they're trying to criticize you, but rather you feel so safe sharing the most vulnerable parts of yourself. Like when you talk about the parts that are hard for you with motherhood, the parts that are hard for you in life, sharing your flaws, sharing things that you need to improve on. That's the level of respect that you want to work towards in your marriage. That is what helps both of you feel open about what's been difficult for you, what you want more of, what you are struggling with in your marriage. Because you can't open up if you are worried about feeling judged, if you're worried about someone criticizing you for what you say. The next thing is not interrupting or mocking. So that means not making fun of them for what they say. That means not judging them. That means letting them get everything they need out so that they actually feel like you are there to listen, that you care about how they feel and what they think and what they want. Another thing is acknowledging their feelings, even if you don't agree. This is a huge thing that I see in my clients. They have a hard time acknowledging their partner's feelings because they feel like by acknowledging what they're saying, that it means that they agree with it, that it means that they're okay with the behaviors that they're seeing. But it doesn't have to mean that. Acknowledging someone's feelings only shares that you care about them. You can acknowledge someone's feelings without giving your seal of approval for what they did. Like, for example, with our kids, especially if you have multiple kids and your kids are fighting, sibling rivalry is a real thing. You can acknowledge someone being competitive or doing something hurtful and understanding why they did it without approving of what they actually did. You can say, I totally understand why you didn't want to share with your sister. I can see why you said that to her because you didn't like that she wasn't respecting your space. Acknowledging is about helping the person feel seen and understood, validated, not about agreeing with what they did. Just simply, I can see why you are motivated to do that. Another way is trusting that your partner has good intentions. We have been in the situation where we have done something that we look back on and regretted, but our intentions were good. Maybe we were trying to be helpful. Maybe we were trying to advocate for ourselves. Whatever it was, sometimes our approaches aren't the best. Like with our communication, maybe we were trying to ask for help and then it came out as judgy. Maybe it came out as criticizing, and then it came out as hurtful because our emotions got stirred up and our approach got misguided. Our intentions are generally good. And when we trust that our partner also has good intentions, that helps us become more curious about, I wonder why they did that. Or I wonder why they forgot that. Instead of assuming the worst. Like, what a jerk. Why did they do that to hurt me? That was a big assumption that I had growing up, is that whenever something bad happened and that feeling was triggered by someone doing something, I assumed that they did it on purpose to hurt me. But that's not usually the truth. Sometimes that's just the collateral damage of what they did. And instead of taking it personally, now I'm like, okay, well, that happened and I got hurt in the process. I wonder what was going on from their perspective. Because maybe they weren't even thinking about it at all and we were just collateral damage, which I would say is most of the time in my life. And with the examples that I've supported my clients through, it has generally been a lack of consideration, not malintent, not doing things to hurt them on purpose. And here's why it matters so much to have respect for your partner. When you have things like these present in your relationship, the listening, the not interrupting, acknowledging their feelings, trusting the good intentions, this is what creates emotional safety. This is what you want most, right? The times when you're like, I need you to open up more. What is it that you want? Having your partner be present in conversations when you have conflict. This is what builds trust. This is what encourages vulnerability and honesty. And when we feel like we are getting our emotional intimacy needs met, this is what allows us to be motivated to be physically intimate. This is what allows us to be flirty, to go the extra mile, to do things to help our partner be happy. This is what enables us to have the capacity to be the wife that your husband likely misses. But because you're not getting your needs met, your motivation to continue to weave in the respect starts to fall, and you don't even notice. And so when that level of respect falls and your needs aren't being met, he's going to have some type of feelings and reactions towards that. So how he shows up starts to change. So it's like this ripple effect that we don't want in the marriage. And here's how respecting yourself is where it starts and why it matters so much. Self-respect in marriage gets too often overlooked. And this looks like knowing and expressing your needs. Like, this is advocation right there at its finest. Too often we are not aware of what we want and what we need, and we are not sharing it in a healthy way. Speaking up instead of shrinking down and saying, well, it's okay, they're busy, or it's been stressful lately, or, oh, our kids are still young and so I get it, like, stop being so understanding. If you're aware that you have a need and it is compromising how you show up in the relationship, and it is making you feel unsupported, making you feel disconnected, making you feel resentful, you've got to bring it up, okay? No more people pleasing, no more, well, I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. I don't want to make them feel bad. You can do that by being intentional about how you communicate, by using respect as the foundation of how you communicate this. Don't do this by not saying something, okay? Set those boundaries. Speak up for your needs. This is what creates a truly fulfilling relationship for you. You get to feel better in the relationship, feeling supported, feeling loved, feeling cared for in the way that it counts. And your husband gets to feel like a really great partner. Who doesn't want to feel like a great partner? Who doesn't want to feel like they are both happy in the marriage? And it starts with respecting yourself. You have unique needs. You are not like any partner your husband has had. So you've got to teach your partner how to treat you. And this starts with respecting yourself and understanding how you want to be treated. This is what avoids resentment from building or even starting in the first place. This is what you need to stay connected to who you are while being in a partnership. If you feel good, you're going to do good. You're going to have the capacity. You're going to want to radiate joy. This is the difference between being resentful in the relationship, slamming cabinet doors, not doing the extra stuff just to see a smile on their face. You're going to just handle you. This is what parallel living looks like in a marriage. You go to bed on your own. You don't bother saying hi or bye, kissing each other. You don't bother asking how their day was or making things happen to help them live a full, rich life. But if you're feeling connected in the marriage, if you feel like you are supporting yourself and you have your needs taken care of, you're going to be looking for things to help them feel special. Like when you were still dating. What would your marriage feel like and look like if you were still dating? Back to that question. Ask yourself, what's it look like to be married to me today? And then ask yourself, what would our marriage look and feel like today if I respected myself, if I respected my partner, and everything I did centered around respect? This admittedly will be challenging to do, and that's okay. You can do hard things. Look at this stage of your marriage as like the growing pains. Look at this as, well, I did my best, and because I wasn't modeled how to do this, I'm doing it now, and late is better than never. You can always turn your marriage around. In fact, one of my clients, she's been married for, I want to say, close to 30 years when I first started working with her. And she was able to completely revamp her marriage. So even if you have full-grown adults as kids, even if you are a grandparent, it is not too late. So do the hard work Ask yourself these tough questions. Look at yourself in the mirror before you start pointing the finger. In fact, it's not even good to point the finger at all. If you're going to point the finger at yourself so that you at least have some control over what can happen, because you yourself, you're the only one that you can control. So make sure that your side of the street is all cleaned up and grow together, okay? Respect is how you can help your marriage thrive. This is how you get safety. This is how you can keep the admiration between you alive, right? Not just loving each other, like, okay, like, yeah, I care if something bad happens to you, but actually admire each other, actually look up to each other. This also helps conflict move more smoothly so that it actually helps your relationship move forward. It moves the needle. It helps build teamwork and partnership so you can work together as a team rather than feeling like you are enemies at any given point. And respect invites collaboration. But when respect is missing, that's where you have resentment. That's where you have the eye rolling, the sarcasm, the dismissiveness, the interrupting, the controlling behaviors, talking badly about your husband to other people, keeping secrets from each other. You stop listening, you stop caring, you start blaming. Marriage starts to feel more like a power struggle than a partnership. So if you want to say goodbye to all of that, it's time to start looking at how you can incorporate more respect in how you show up in your marriage, because it is the glue. It is essential. It's not something that's like, oh yeah, that's nice to have, and maybe we'll have that later on. With respect, communication and connection get to grow. Without it, it falls apart. So what is one way you can bring more respect into your marriage today? Either toward your partner or toward yourself or both. I know you want your marriage to thrive. And I know you know how draining it is to have a marriage that is struggling while you're raising kids. You know how important this work is. So do this. And if you want to take it a step further, go grab my Marriage 360 assessment. This is a great workbook to figure out the different ways that your marriage can improve. Because when we have awareness, that's where we can start to take steps forward. That's where we have ideas on what to do next. Okay? I'll pop that link in the show notes. Go check it out. Have a conversation around it. And if the next step after that is getting support, book a clarity call with me, so that we can talk about what are the things that we will work through, how it works, and get started with you learning the tools and growing your marriage mindset so that you can have a marriage that has done a complete 180, feeling so difficult to feeling so easy and fun. If you are ready for that kind of marriage where it feels light instead of heavy, book a call. I am taking new clients, although it will be limited with summer coming around. So make sure you book your call today. If you found this episode helpful, let me know. I love to hear back from you listeners. And if you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share this with them, whether you tag me on Instagram in your story or you send this directly to them. I would so appreciate that. And if you have been loving my show, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. And I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.